Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my channel. If you clicked on this video, I'm going to assume you are recently engaged, in which case congratulations, or you're a friend of mine, in which case I'm sorry. Either way, by now you're probably aware that most weddings are insanely expensive, but they don't have to be. Today I'm going to take you through the steps I took to create my dream wedding for under $3,000. Take what you will from this video. I know everybody has a different vision for their wedding, but no matter what that vision might be, I really think these tips will help ease some of the stress that comes along with wedding planning. Let's do it. All right, so the first thing you should do, in my opinion, when planning your wedding is to sit down with your partner and make a budget. I think it's really important to let the budget drive the event and not the event drive the budget. So before you even start envisioning what it is you two want for your wedding, sit down with your partner and try to arrive at a number that you both will feel comfortable spending. You may not want to compromise on your special day, and that's totally understandable, but I'll tell you now, no matter how great of a party you throw, there is nothing that will dampen the romance like adding unnecessary debt, so make a budget now. All right, now that you've established your budget, the next number you want to consider is the amount of guests you want to have at your wedding. No matter what type of wedding you're having, the number of guests is likely to be the #1 driver of cost, so that's something you really want to keep in mind. That's because for every person you invite, that's more seating you're going to have to pay for, a potentially larger venue, another meal, another night of drinks, so on and so forth. So again, now's a great time to sit down with your partner and arrive at a number that you both are envisioning for your wedding. By the way, I'm just going to throw out there that COVID, as much as it sucks trying to plan a wedding during a pandemic, COVID is a great excuse for not inviting certain people to your wedding. So if anything, there's a silver lining in that. I personally just eloped for my wedding, and before you click off if you're not planning an elopement, there are still a lot of tips in this video that can apply to a non-elopement wedding, so stick around. But that allowed me to just have a very simple wedding with the minimum of 2 people. You need 1 to officiate and 1 to witness, just if you were curious about elopement requirements. I personally selected my wedding guests by length of stride, ability to avert disaster, and willingness to recreate melancholia propaganda. But all that is to say, be mindful about who you invite to your wedding and keeping that number constrained. This is your day, and I can personally attest to the fact that the smaller the wedding, the more simple and stress-free it's going to be. Okay, this next tip is probably my favorite budget wedding hack, and that is to get a friend ordained. I think paying for a minister is not a cost that immediately comes to mind when you're planning your wedding, but it's just another line in the expenses. So here I'm going to tell you how you can get that for free. All you have to do is go to the universallifechurch.com and take about 10 minutes, and voila, now you can be ordained and legally able to officiate weddings in most of the United States. I know this because I am personally ordained. I got ordained in a bar in college in like 10 minutes, just like I said, and have now officiated 2 weddings to date. So I can personally attest to the legitimacy and ease of this process. I cannot understate the amount of fun and comfortability this adds to your wedding. They're nerve-wracking, and it puts me so much more at ease to have a friend of mine at the altar. And it might seem nerve-wracking, like, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm not a professional minister, but there's plenty of pre-done templates online if you're not interested in writing your own vows. But if you are, I recommend just taking one of those templates, tweaking it to make it more personal to you, adding in your own vows when it's time to exchange them, and you're good to go. All right. My next tip, I'm sure you never would have seen coming from this channel. It is to buy as much as you can for your wedding secondhand. And I am talking dress, flowers, decor, the whole bit. The thing about wedding stuff is that it is only used for 1 day. So the vast majority of it is going to be in mint condition, barely touched. It's also going to be hugely discounted. So if you're really looking to cut costs, this is a great way to start a blanket statement for all of these items. The main places that I use and used for my wedding were Facebook Marketplace, Depop, Poshmark, but you can also use sites like eBay, and I know there's actually sites that specialize in bridal resale. I personally got my wedding dress off of Poshmark for $200. I ordered it from a brand that I already knew fit me well, and it turned out to not need any alterations at all. So that is also something you might want to keep in mind when ordering a dress. The brand was Reformation, if you're curious. But yeah, when buying secondhand, if you can additionally buy from a bride that has similar proportions to you, that might be a really great way to save on the cost of altering your dress as well. In terms of decor, I didn't personally buy any decor. I chose to elope outside under a tree. I think that's a great route to go, and I will share with you a beautiful, affordable venue in which you can do that if you're interested later in the video. But if you're going for a more traditional setting, Facebook Marketplace is absolutely flooded with tons of barely used wedding decor. I've also seen a good bit of it on buy nothing groups group, so you might be able to get it absolutely free. Again, keep in mind this stuff has been barely touched. Like most of it probably just sat on a table looking pretty and sparkly and is just waiting to help out at its next wedding. So check out Facebook for that stuff. In terms of a bouquet, I would definitely recommend getting an artificial one rather than real for reasons that will become a little more clear in a moment. The first of these reasons is that you obviously can't get a real bouquet secondhand, but there are again plenty of these all over Facebook Marketplace and Depop and Poshmark. I wasn't personally able to find the one that I was looking for on these sites, so I went ahead and custom ordered one from Etsy, and that almost cost the amount of my dress. It was $150 just for one bouquet. It was absolutely beautiful and worth it, don't get me wrong. All that said, I will throw the name of the Etsy shop that I bought from up on screen. I highly recommend it. And the best part was about buying this artificial bouquet is that I was able to resell that along with my wedding dress, and I got $100 out of the $150 that I paid for it originally. So that's a big reason to consider getting artificial flowers. The resale value you can get back from them a lot of times ends up being even greater than the savings if you just rented a bouquet or something like that. And that leads me right into my next point, which is to resell as much as you can of your wedding stuff when you're finished with it. So if you do decide on the artificial flowers, like I said, just feel free to throw it up on any of the bridal resale sites you might have encountered, but Facebook Marketplace is what ended up selling my bouquet for me. And I know it might seem hard to let go of an item that played such an important role in your day, but the way that I think of it, it already served its purpose to me, and I have an abundance of photos of this item. It's not like I'm going to forget it, and other than that, it's kind of this massive thing that can no longer serve a purpose to me. So it gave me more joy to pass it on to another bride where it could live to fight another day, get somebody else married, and continue serving its purpose as a bridal bouquet. Similar thing with my wedding dress. I really didn't see a reason to keep it. I didn't know when I was ever gonna put that on again, and I just didn't really want a long dress taking up space in my closet. So I was able to sell that on Facebook Marketplace as well. I got $150 for that. So the grand total of my wedding dress cost was $50, and then also $50 for my bouquet once the resale was done. Moving on to the venue. Venues are another big expense when it comes to weddings. So to cut costs, you might consider asking a friend if you can get married on their property. Where I come from, there are a lot of piers and waterfront views or big barns, farms by a lake, stuff like that. I know the rustic wedding is pretty trendy right now, at least I think. So if that's your thing, definitely consider asking a friend. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help out for your wedding. Most people are. But because I eloped with such a small wedding party, venue savings is not my personal area of expertise. So instead, I'm just gonna tell you exactly what I did. This sounds so overly fancy, but our wedding venue was the backyard of the Elms Mansion in Newport. I chose it specifically because they have these gorgeous, enormous weeping beech trees in the back of this lawn, and it's like a massive umbrella, and my vision was to get married under one of these weeping beech trees. So that is why I wanted that venue. As you can imagine, a mansion in Newport venue is incredibly expensive. If I recall correctly, it was something like $10,000 to rent the venue for a wedding. But, and I'm pretty sure this is still the case, if you just want to rent the venue out for wedding photography, it's only $250. So that is exactly what we did. We rented it out for just wedding photography and kind of snuck under the tree and eloped. And because the tree reached the ground, no one could really see what we were doing. So that was a massive, massive savings there. I know this is very specific advice, but it saved me over $9,000. It might apply to other locations if you too are considering eloping or have a small enough party, quick enough ceremony. Just something to keep in mind. But more power to you if you just go to the Elms as well. I couldn't recommend it enough for a wedding location, obviously. All right, and moving on to the photographer. I think this area is one of the most important to people, and I know it is for me because you want to capture those memories in a nice way. Picture it didn't happen, right? So everybody wants to have high quality photos for their wedding. I'm completely with you there, and my husband and I spent a lot of time searching around for photographers that were both affordable but could provide a quality service. I hear a lot of people saying, don't go cheap on the photographer. That's the most important part of the wedding. And I just wanted to shout out Will and D Photography. They were only $200 for the entire session. We got tons of photos. And I'm telling you this not just to recommend this specific photographer, although if you want to do my whole Newport wedding idea, they are local to the area. My main point is that quality photographers aren't always necessarily thousands of dollars, and a good way to cut costs on the photographer is to book them for a shorter amount of time. So one of the reasons that this particular photographer was so inexpensive for us is that our ceremony was only 1 hour. But it was a really good deal, and just advice I wanted to pass on to you. Maybe you don't need photos of every single stage of your wedding. Everyone's different, but for me, when I see albums upon albums of like thousands of wedding photos, I think it erodes the value of each individual picture. So maybe just consider going with a smaller package for your photographer, booking the photographer for a shorter amount of time. But again, just be aware that there are very high quality photographers out there for an affordable price. All right, and now we have the final touches. Everything I've covered previously is, in my opinion, the bare bones necessities for getting yourself married. So now that you've accounted for these expenses, it's a great time to take a look in your budget, see what's left, and allocate the remainder out to the rest of these miscellaneous little categories. If you find you need to still trim some fat from those, I'm here to tell you how to do that. Okay, so manicures and pedicures, because your hands are going to be photographed a lot due to the wedding ring on them, you probably would want to pay a professional to paint your fingernails, but seriously, no one is looking at your feet. If you want to just paint your own toenails, that is a great way to cut the cost of your spa trip in half. While we're talking about feet, one of the most ridiculous things I think about weddings is this concept of wedding shoes, like white satin shoes that you only wear one day. First of all, I think they're kind of ugly. And you can literally never get any other use out of them except for the one day, and they cost like 20 times as much because they're wedding shoes. Don't buy these specialized shoes. What I did was just go with a neutral pair of heeled sandals that I could walk in easily, that were still fancy enough for the wedding, but ones that I could and have continued to rewear after the big day. Also, on the note of pedicures and wedding shoes, most traditional wedding dresses are going to be covering your feet anyway, which just further adds to the absurdity of the whole concept. I don't know. You can also consider doing your own makeup and hair. I like the way I do my own makeup, and I didn't want to look too different on my own wedding day, so I just did my own makeup, but I suck at doing my hair. I tried really hard for this video, and you can see, you know, this isn't wedding day material. If you're good at either one of those things, maybe consider just doing your own beauty services yourself. But yeah, again, I cut the cost of that in half for me because I just did my own makeup on my wedding day. Another note there, so there were only 2 girls in my party. It was just me and my bridesmaid, maid of honor, videographer, walker down the aisle, feeder of mimosas before ceremony, thank you, Autumn. But it was kind of funny because we got more or less the same hairstyle, but because mine was bridal hairstyle, it was more than double the cost. So yeah, just between you and me, if you are really in a bind and need to pinch pennies, you can just book a hairstylist for a regular service and not mention that it's for a wedding, especially if you have a small party, and avoid the huge price markup that essentially comes from just sticking the word bridal in front of the service that you're paying for. And the final thing is lean on your friends whenever you can. They love you, they're there to help you. If one of them is willing to officiate your wedding, another one might be willing to bartend. Here's another area I can hop in and speak from personal experience. My husband and I once agreed to bartend a stranger's wedding for free. They were just really in a bind because their previous bartender dropped out, and we just, through word of mouth, were told to fill the role. We just had an open bar situation and were paid in tips. And we are by no means professionals, but I think we did a great job, and we walked away with over $400 in tips, which was more than enough compensation. I had a blast just doing it for free, but that is a great way to cut down on the cost of an open bar situation if you're considering that for your wedding. Just have a friend do it, have them work for tips. And again, you get that added personal aspect of keeping a friend on staff versus a stranger that you've outsourced somewhere. So yeah. Whew. All right, and I think that is all of my tips. If you made it all the way to the end and you're interested in my personal wedding expenses and how I got my dream wedding for under $3,000, I will run through those expenses right now. I was too lazy to break out Excel and get a more precise number for you guys because frankly, I work in Excel every single day of my job and cannot be bothered to do it over the holidays. But generally speaking, my dress started as $200. I resold it for $150, so the total cost of my wedding dress was $50. My flowers were $150, but I resold them for $100. So again, that was only another $50 that went towards my flowers. My husband had a suit custom made, but he was able to do that for $600. I have no idea where he went to get that done, but if you are interested, leave me a comment below. I think the suit was beautiful, obviously, but I might be a little bit biased. My hair was something like $90 plus tip. My nails, I did get a manicure and pedicure because I never get my nails done. So that was $80. The venue, as I said, was only $250. Photographer was only $200. Shout out again to Will and D Photography. You Amazing. We did have to fly to Newport to pull off this wedding because we didn't live in the area. So I think the flights for both of us were $500 or $600. We also had to get an Airbnb, so that was another $400. And then for the rest of the Newport expenses, miscellaneous stuff that might have accrued, I'm gonna say that was about $600. That's probably a little bit inflated, but we did eat really well during our wedding weekend. And I know there were a few tips for some of these services that I probably forgot to include. So maybe when I'm feeling a little bit more motivated, I will have a little total of what all of that adds up to right around here. From the figures I have seen, that is still a pretty inexpensive wedding, but it was absolutely everything I ever could have hoped for. And that's it. That is all I've got. If you got value out of this video, please like and subscribe. I make a lot of lifestyle content regarding minimalism and frugality. And let me tell you, being on the same page with money management is great for a strong marriage. So, but that's enough about me. Go forth and get married, and I hope to see you here next week. Bye.